a coworker turn to me one day and say that she used to be married to a narcissist and our boss was a narcissist. Hello, I am Nicole. Welcome to my channel where I get vocal about workplace bullying, harassment, intimidation, and all actions in between. Today, I will be sharing with you how I was in a emotionally abusive and toxic work environment where there was no HR, so I suffered in silence, as well as was not provided health care. So my mental health and physical health was 100% up to me. Before I get into it, I want to establish this as a safe space, so a judge-free zone. I will admit I will be the first to say I am embarrassed by what I went through and the fact that I stayed, particularly as long as I did, especially when I started to have an understanding kind of midway through that I was encountering workplace bullying, intimidation, and I am going to share why I stayed. The biggest reason, which I think is the one that is most embarrassing for me, is the fact that I had absolutely no idea in the beginning that I was even being bullied. And here's why. There's this stigma of bosses being a jerk, just being buttholes. And that was kind of implanted in my head. So initially I was just thinking, you're just kind of going through workplace conflict and drama. I think the downfall of having that stigma out there is that it took me so long for my brain to adjust to what I was feeling emotionally, physically, encountering certain types of things with my boss, because I'm thinking everything that I'm encountering is just normal. Sometimes when you don't identify something or label something, you can be in a situation and not realize it because the only thing you have to go off of is what you hear all the time. One of the main things that I had to realize is that if I'm not willingly engaging in the conflict with the individual or individuals, then that is bullying. So what I was encountering was outside of the scope of what should be normal workplace behavior. One of the ways that I was able to discover that was through a professional who helped me identify, label what it is that I was encountering for what it was. I had a coworker turn to me one day and say that she used to be married to a narcissist and our boss was a narcissist. And that was the first time that I kind of had heard the word narcissist. So this is years back. This was before the word narcissist was kind of thrown around as everybody's go-to word to describe someone. So at that point, she and I had had several conversations about what a narcissist was. So at least I was able to identify the personality that I was working with. I still wasn't able to equate the behavior of the person as a direct attack. Now, my coworker ended up resigning maybe 2 years into her encounter with our boss. And she turned to me and said, "You're next." In my mind, I'm thinking, but I'm not a problem. Not to say that my coworker was a problem, but if being problematic was a person, it wouldn't be me. You know, I'm so far beneath being a problem, engaging in workplace foolery, that it just wasn't dawning on me that what she was saying was, you're next, because I was the victim first. And according to a narcissist, they have to be able to have their next victim, and you're going to be it. Lo and behold, I was it. But again, through a professional, I was able to identify when it became obviously clear. I think when you are in any type of abusive gaslighting situation, there is going to become a moment where all the actions, all the emotions, all align, and you are able to understand exactly what it is that you are going through, and then that should be your ticket to get out of there. The other reason why I stayed was peer pressure. I had coworkers who were saying things like, think about the kids. What about the kids? They need you. This program needs you. All of those things that program my mind to think that I needed to do it for the kids. Like, above all, my focus should be on the job. It should be on the fact that I love what I do, although I dislike who I do it for. Well, in a sense, the organization that I do it for, not the students that I do it for. So I stayed because of that as well, on top of my own pressure that I put on myself to not quit. I'm not the type of person who kind of gives up. However, I needed to really understand my safety, my mental health, my peace of mind, my joy, my everything was being derailed by one individual who was bullying, intimidating me on a regular. And I wanted to convince myself that I could handle it, because at the end of the day, it's about the job. If I can focus on doing the job, doing it well, then this person will back off. That couldn't be even further from the truth, but here we are. Then I stayed because I thought that it was my job to fight for arts education. This is one of those things, again, where I feel like I'm programmed to always be in a state of fighting when it comes to the arts and arts education. It's one of the first things to get cut with funding. It's the least respected in terms of theater, music, visual arts, dance. All of that is usually not taken seriously. So I was kind of programmed from the beginning to understand that there was going to be a level of fighting for that, fighting for the respect of it. However, that is separate and distinct from what I encountered being an employee of a nonprofit organization. And I wasn't able to separate the ideology of those two things. One has absolutely nothing to do with the other. One is the mistreatment of me as an individual, and the other is the on-the-ground work that I needed to do to make sure that funding was there, that the program succeeded. Two different things. But sometimes the brain works in a way that it takes time for you to catch up in terms of your thought process, reality. And I think that's also attributed to gaslighting. When you're being gaslit at a mass rate, all the lines get blurred. You thinking you're not a good person, you thinking you're not doing a good job, you thinking you got to do harder in this thing, and it's like there's nothing that you can do to be better at your job when you're already proficient, expert, excel. And it really comes down to the mistreatment that you're getting that's just playing mind tricks with you in terms of your ability to do your job and do it effectively. Biggest reason at the time that I stayed was financial stability. And it's so interesting because when you think about being in any type of abusive relationship, the number one reason why people stay is because of finances. And I stayed because at the beginning, financially, I was not where I wanted to be able to just depart and put the energy into finding another job, especially when I thought I was where I was supposed to be professionally, although I didn't think I was where I was supposed to be personally. So I was really having a mental fight with myself in terms of, do I stay? Do I go? How do I make that work? Trying to put myself in a financial place to be able to make my exit. And that to me again plays heavy on the gaslighting, because a lot of the times people, especially those who are your boss, who are in control of your paycheck, will behave in a certain way knowing that you need that job. Like, that job you depend on. So they will be more inclined to be empowered to treat you poorly, because what are you going to do? You going to just go and find another job? I mean, it's just so many variables, layers to why I stayed. I actually had to come to the understanding that I can't beat myself up for something that wasn't necessarily my fault to begin with. Yes, I stayed, and then yes, I made certain decisions based on staying, but I can't contribute to my own victim blaming, shaming. It's not conducive. It's not going to get me anywhere, and it serves no purpose. All of the reasons why I stayed is the catalyst as to why I am now advocating for others who are experiencing workplace bullying, harassment, intimidation, everything in between, because no one should have to be in an environment that is unhealthy. Our mental health and physical health doesn't have to be on a decline because we are, some of us, stuck in jobs that we can't get out of for reasons that I listed, or other reasons that are just not feasible for us to just quit and go to another job. Furthermore, we shouldn't have to just quit and go to another job when we should be able to be at the job that we love and enjoy in terms of the work, and not have to be worried about being mistreated by our boss, by a coworker, by anyone. This is an all gas, no break season for me. I am going to be putting in the work. I know this is going to be a long journey, an uphill battle, a big fight, and I'm hoping we can do this thing together. Just establish a space to share our stories, advocate. I plan to do a lot of things. I mean, politicians, I am coming for you. I have things that I need to say. I got questions. I will say, now that I am removed from the toxic work environment, I have had time to unpack my trauma, to digest what I went through, because I went through a lot. And having this time to reflect on what I went through, I have made a lot of discoveries. The number one thing I discovered was I am mentally stronger than I gave myself credit for. Also discovered that I have an innate ability to be kind to people even when they do not deserve it. The biggest thing that I discovered was I had for many years written down that I eventually want to have my own organization. Rehabilitation through the arts. That is like a passion project of mine, because my father was in prison my entire childhood, adulthood, and I wanted to marry my love for arts with helping juveniles in detention centers to rehabilitate them through writing, music, dance, however they want to express themselves artistically. And it's interesting because I had it in my mind how that was going to look. With me being removed from the organization, what I've determined is that I need to rehabilitate myself. I need to use my art form, e.g. YouTube, my creativity, and coming to that revelation was just really eye-opening to me, because it's like, how can you really do for somebody else that you don't have done for yourself, that you don't have in control of yourself? I have PTSD and I have trauma that I need to work through in order to get to that end goal. I'm just utilizing YouTube as my way to do that, because it's not just about me. This is a global problem. This is a global issue. And the best way to make change is to be vocal about my experiences in hopes that a collective will be able to come together to make change and make things happen. My grandest discovery is that my voice is my superpower. And there is no need for me to stay quiet about what I went through, especially if it's going to help someone else. As long as I'm not physically harming myself or others, I am free to heal in the way that is most conducive for me. We are in this together. And with that being said, I want to thank you so much for watching. Feel free to get vocal in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. Furthermore, remember that your voice is your superpower, so don't be afraid to use it. And if no one told you today, let me be the first to say, I love you. Cheers.